Hi, this is Jen, the Liberty Lion, and today we're going to talk about the distinction between things. Two similar things are not the same, and you can't step in the same river twice. Aristotle said we must be able to draw a distinction between things. You can't step in the same river twice meant that as the water flows, so does time flow, and so does our reality change. And so when you step in a river and you step out, the water has flown, and then when you step in it again, you're not stepping in the same river because the water has moved on, just like time moves on. And this was something that was written in a book called People in Quandaries, and the point he was trying to make was that as time moved on, things don't stay the same, they change. But we have to be able to draw a distinction between things. So in the Constitution, we see the United States and the United States of America. This is two different things, two different entities, two different states or conditions or ways of being, two different governments, but consolidated. We see this again in Article 2, where it talks about the President of the United States of America, who has executive power. This is under Section 1, Article 2, Section 1. The executive power shall be vested in a President of the United States of America. That's the executive power, as the executive power over America, meaning all the free, sovereign, and independent states. And then under Section 2 of Article 2, the President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States and of the militia of the several states. But the militia of the several states when called into actual service of the United States. So when they're not called into service of the United States, they're the militia of America or of the several states. We have to look at the distinction between things. In Article 1, we see that in order to be a representative, you have to be citizen of the United States, not a United States citizen. And that the legislative powers, the Congress, when assembled as the United States in Congress assembled, that they are a Congress of the federal lands, the federal people on the federal lands, the United States. So the United States is here as a military, as we see in Article 2, Section 2, the Army and the Navy of the United States. Now, if you just watched my recent video, the one I posted just before this one, we see that the word "the" is very important in distinguishing between a government entity and a non-government entity. So the United States is a government entity and the United States of America is a government entity. And we know that that is true because it's here in the Constitution, written in such a way, and the Constitution created a federal government over the land and naval forces for the defense of America. Two similar things are not the same. So here we have U.S. Army, United States Army. So I have to ask myself, is this a mercenary army created by a corporation called United States Army? And the Navy is written in some places also. I've showed you in some previous videos that when it is an official government website, it has written on it official government website, such as what we see here, an official website of the United States government. Here's how you know. Uses .gov. So the Army uses .mil. So is this a government army, a patriotic army, or is this a corporate army, mercenaries? There's no designation here that says it's an official government website. Here we have a .mil website where there's training done for the military. This is anti-terrorism training. And it's a .mil website, and there is no official government website shown here. So it looks as though .mil websites are not official government websites. So who are running all the .mil websites? I want to show you a video that was posted, I believe it was just today, by Professor Simon Holland. And what he talked about was the military had raided a space observatory. This man lives in France, as far as what he said. But he says that the military had come in with, I think, Black Hawk helicopters and raided this observatory, and then had everyone sign a non-disclosure agreement. He says the FBI sent in the military in Black Hawks and raided this observatory. And he claims that possibly it was because the observatory had caught pictures of the sun, and that there may possibly be a polar shift, and so they went in and they raided them. I don't know exactly what they did there, but my question then is, was this the actual military of the government, the federal government, under the Constitution, called the Army of the United States? Or was this a mercenary army ran by corporations and assembled under the title United States instead of the United States, and are running a military that looks like a constitutional military but isn't, and doing things under a pretend authority, an authority that it doesn't actually have, being a corporation. So it's called Solar Observatory Raid, Professor Simon Holland. And you can watch the video. You see here it's 6 minutes and 36 seconds. I thought it was interesting, and it got me thinking about some of the other things I had learned about the word "the" and whether something is an actual government or not. There's another video out by Jimmy, who you've probably seen his videos. He talks about, what is this channel called? For some reason, I'm not remembering right now. He talks about Egypt and stuff, and he was in the military, and he went to Afghanistan or Iraq, and he visited some of the monuments there that were later torn down. And he talks about ISIS and how there's some sort of mercenary military for hire going around doing certain things and pretending to be a patriotic military, and that nobody seems to know who's actually in control of them or who's paying them, and that the United States claims not to know. So, brighter insight. Oh, Bright Insight. Yeah, Jimmy, Bright Insight, and he talks about the monument. I think it was this last one. Ancient Iraq is a massive conspiracy. July 30th. Yeah, I think this one is it. and he talks about the monuments there and how the monuments have been torn down and just some other things. You need to go out and watch his video if you haven't already. And then think about what he's saying and how he's talking about there being this mercenary military that's doing things that nobody seems to know who's in control of them and who's paying them. So I wanted to point to you real quick that defense all over all the documents since about 1850 at least has been spelled with an S, but in the Constitution it's spelled with a C. And I've got lots of videos out on that, so you can go and look at that. And so my point here is, if they've changed the spelling, it wasn't because it was spelled wrong, because Anglo-Saxon English is a combination of a lot of different languages. And so some of our words do have a slightly different spelling because the original and the language that word came from probably had a different meaning than it did when the similar word that came from a different language. So you have defense spelled with a C, which is Old French Norse, and then you have defense spelled with an S, which is Latin. So in the Constitution, they spell it with a C, which means that you just protect what's yours. You don't go out looking for problems. So more like a patriotic type situation, where defense with an S is more like a vengeance. It's Latin, and it's got like a very vengeful feel to it. So there's a difference here between the spelling of the words and why they might have changed it, because they changed sort of the form of government, brought it in under a corporation, and instead of saying the United States or the Army of the United States, they're calling it United States Army, United States Navy. So we go back down to Article 2, Section 2. The President shall be Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy of the United States, and the militia of the several states when called into actual service of the United States. So you have to ask yourself now, does our Army, Navy, Coast Guard, Marine Corps, Air Force, are they actually under the control of a constitutionally created government, or are they under control of a corporation with a similar name that people think is their government, but actually isn't? And then I'd like to point out to you also that I've said in many of my videos that I don't believe that the people in Congress qualify for those positions, because a citizen of the United States is not the same as United States citizen. United States citizen without the appears not to be a government, but instead appears to be something else. And at this time in this country appears to be a corporation. So a citizen of the United States for 7, 9, or 14 years would be someone who has lived within the federal lands as probably a commissioned officer for 7, 9, or 14 years, who then after that period of time qualifies to sit at the seat of government. If you are a United States citizen, then you don't qualify, and many of these people in office as civilians do not qualify for those positions in Congress, which means that nothing that they've done since the time when they were supposed to have been qualified as a citizen of the United States, being a commissioned officer, nothing they have done is legal or lawful. So, I mean, just think if we could go back to erasing all the laws since like 1799 or 1800, because by then they would mainly qualify for those positions had they had been commissioned officers or citizens of the United States, and not when elected be an inhabitant of that state. So what that means is that they're on the federal lands, because the federal lands are not that state. The federal lands are the federal state, and the federal lands is the United States, and you have to be a citizen of the United States, not a United States citizen. Okay, so another quick video on corporation versus government, and the quick way that you might be able to tell what the difference is, a couple of videos that you could go out and listen to on Bright Insight with Jimmy, where he talks about a mercenary military and nobody seems to know who's paying them. And Professor Holland, just listen to what he says. And what I was asking myself was, why would the military be doing this? Now, we know that the FBI is not a constitutionally created department. It's outside the Constitution. It's under the executive, which most people know by now is controlled by the Federal Reserve Bank. Corporations, private corporations with a public side to them. So as he's talking about this in this video, I'm thinking this just seems really wrong. Why would the military be used to raid a civilian observatory? They should not be doing that. There's nothing in the Constitution or the earliest laws of the United States of America or the United States that allows the military to be used in such a capacity. As a matter of fact, the only thing that they were supposed to be used for, aside from protection of the country or the nations, is that they could be used to help end resurrections or riots in the states, but only when the governor called them or asked the president to bring them in, and they would be given police powers and be brought in to end a riot or something. And in the officer's manual, it says that they could only use the force necessary to stop the illegal acts. That they could take property, but the property they would take would be like fences to make a barricade, not to go into your house and confiscate your gold or your property of any sort. So that's what I was thinking of when I was watching this video, that the military is being used in a way that's more like a mercenary military rather than the patriot military that was established by the Articles of Confederation and the Constitution. Okay, so with that, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that, it gave you some insight, and maybe you'll be ahead of the game when this information starts trickling out from others. Like, share, subscribe, make a comment, and I'll see you in another video.